Picture this. It's 2 a.m. where you are. Your client just sent a message marked urgent. Your phone is lighting up, your laptop is open, and somewhere across the ocean, their business day just started. Meanwhile, you haven't slept yet, or you just woke up 3 hours ago, depending on how you're looking at it. This is the reality that thousands of remote workers and freelancers are living right now, and nobody is talking honestly about what it actually does to you. I spent over a year working completely inverted from my target market. My clients were operating on Eastern Standard Time. I was living 9 hours ahead. And what I discovered during that time changed everything I thought I understood about productivity, professionalism, and the real cost of remote work freedom. So today, we are going in deep. We are talking about the psychological weight of time zone inversion, the practical strategies that actually work versus the ones that sound good on productivity blogs, and the honest conversation about when it stops being worth it. If you are managing clients or holding down a remote job while your sleep schedule is basically flipped upside down, this video is specifically for you. Let's start with what nobody warns you about when you first take that exciting international client or land that dream remote role with a company based halfway around the world. The first few weeks feel manageable. You are running on excitement and adrenaline. You stay up a little later than normal, you adjust your morning routine, and you tell yourself this is just temporary while you find your rhythm. But here is what is actually happening inside your body during those weeks. Your circadian rhythm is not a suggestion. In AI tools for publishing books, generating presentations, and automating sales funnels, you can easily create and monetize digital products from anywhere without needing complex technical skills. https://clickly.net tycoon. Now let us talk about the money and career calculation, because this is where people need to be brutally honest with themselves. Working inverted can pay extremely well. A developer in Southeast Asia servicing US clients, a designer in Eastern Europe working with Australian brands, there are real financial incentives that make the sacrifice feel worthwhile. And for a period of time, it can absolutely be worth it. But there is a threshold point where the health costs, the relationship costs, and the cognitive degradation start eating into the very performance that made you valuable in the first place. The clients who hired you for your creativity and sharpness will start to notice when those qualities diminish. The premium you earn for availability loses its value if it slowly destroys your ability to do excellent work. The conversation you need to have is not whether time zone inversion is possible. Clearly it is. Thousands of people do it. The conversation is about what timeline you are running it on, what your exit strategy looks like, and whether. And here is the cruel irony. You often cannot feel how impaired you are until something goes wrong. For me, the first sign was my writing. I am a communicator by profession. Words are my tool. And I started noticing that emails which should have taken me 20 minutes were taking over an hour. I would read a client brief 3 times and still feel foggy about what they actually wanted. I blamed my internet connection, I blamed the brief, I blamed everything except the obvious truth that I was operating during hours my brain genuinely was not designed to perform at its best. Now, here is where it gets interesting, because not all time zone inversions are created equal. There is a massive difference between being 3 hours off and being 10 or 12 hours off. A 3-hour gap is manageable with some schedule adjustments and clear communication expectations. But when you are fully inverted, meaning your client's peak hours are your natural sleep hours, you are facing something categorically different. You are not just shifting your schedule. You are restructuring your entire existence around someone else's time zone. And the social cost of that is something that productivity content completely ignores. Your local friends and family operate on local time. Dinners, events, spontaneous calls, weekend plans, they all happen when you are supposed to be either sleeping or in the middle of your work obligations. You start declining things. People stop inviting you. The isolation compounds quietly over months until you look up one day and realize your social world has essentially evaporated. So what actually works? Because I am not here to just describe the problem. I want to give you the real practical framework that helped me survive and eventually thrive in this situation. The first principle is what I call anchor hours. Rather than trying to match your client's entire working day, you identify the 2 to 3 hour window where overlap is both necessary and genuinely productive. You protect that window aggressively. You sleep around it. You structure your entire day around making those anchor hours excellent, and you let the rest of the day be yours. This single shift reduces the pressure enormously because instead of feeling like you are always partially available, you have clear boundaries that both you and your clients understand. The second principle is communication infrastructure. When you cannot respond in real time, your asynchronous communication needs to be exceptional. This means writing messages that anticipate follow-up questions. It means creating shared documents where project status is always visible without requiring a conversation. It means over-communicating context so that your client never feels like they are waiting in the dark. Clients who trust your communication infrastructure do not panic when you are offline. Clients who have been trained to expect immediate responses will always make your life difficult, regardless of time zone. The third principle is sleep architecture over sleep duration. When you cannot get 8 consecutive hours at conventional times, the research on sleep cycles becomes your best friend. Understanding how to design sleep blocks that prioritize deep and REM stages, even if those blocks are unconventional, can dramatically improve cognitive recovery. This is not about hacking your biology into submission. It is about respecting what your body actually needs within the constraints you are working with. Here is a psychological insight that completely reframed my experience. Time zone inversion creates what researchers call temporal displacement, a persistent low-grade stress that comes from feeling out of sync with your environment. The way to reduce this is not to pretend your local environment does not exist. It is to actively maintain connection with local rhythms wherever possible. Eating local mealtimes, spending time outside during local daylight hours, having at least some social contact during hours when your community is awake. These anchors keep you from feeling like a ghost in your own city. Empirely empowers anyone to launch and run an online business completely remotely by consolidating digital creation, marketing, and sales tools into a single, user-friendly workspace. With built-in AI tools for publishing ebooks, generating presentations, and automating sales funnels, you can easily create and monetize digital products from anywhere without needing complex technical skills. ATP, stay quickly. Net tycoon. Now let us talk about the money and career calculation, because this is where people need to be brutally honest with themselves. Working inverted can pay extremely well. A developer in Southeast Asia servicing US clients, a designer in Eastern Europe working with Australian brands, there are real financial incentives that make the sacrifice feel worthwhile. And for a period of time, it can absolutely be worth it. But there is a threshold point where the health costs, the relationship costs, and the cognitive degradation start eating into the very performance that made you valuable in the first place. The clients who hired you for your creativity and sharpness will start to notice when those qualities diminish. The premium you earn for availability loses its value if it slowly destroys your ability to do excellent work. The conversation you need to have is not whether time zone inversion is possible. Clearly it is. Thousands of people do it. The conversation is about what timeline you are running it on, what your exit strategy looks like, and whether you are building toward something that eventually puts you in control of your own hours, or whether you are running in place. I eventually made a deliberate decision to shift my client base toward markets that aligned better with my natural time zone. Not because I could not handle the inversion, but because I realized that my best work came from my best cognitive hours, and I deserved to sell that best work rather than perpetually discounted sleep-deprived work. If you are in this situation right now, here is my honest closing thought for you. The remote work revolution sold us freedom as the headline. What it did not mention clearly enough is that freedom without intentional structure just creates a different kind of trap. You can absolutely build a sustainable, profitable, genuinely enjoyable remote career across time zone boundaries. But it requires you to be honest about the real costs, disciplined about the systems that protect your performance, and clear-eyed about the long game you are actually playing. Drop a comment below telling me your time zone situation and what the biggest challenge has been. I read everything, and honestly, some of the most useful content I make comes directly from what you share down there. If this resonated, subscribe because we go this deep every single week.